Hey everybody, Anton here. Hey, I have some special announcements for the Breadcrumbs of Inspiration podcast. Number one, we're moving to video format, and this is actually the first episode in video format. So if you're listening, you can check us out on video on YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, welcome. I hope you enjoy this episode so much, and please be sure to subscribe and leave a like and a comment if you're on YouTube. Number two, exciting news number two. We actually have a sponsor for this podcast, and it's the Med Collective. It's a meditation app that actually allows you to customize your meditation experience. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is there's actually a ton of different meditation styles. There's not just one type of meditation. And the cool thing about Med Collective, and actually the founder, Belle, who interviews me today on the show, is she curated some of the best guides in their different fields of expertise to bring you a powerful meditation experience through her app, the Med Collective. So they're the sponsor. Make sure to check them out. The link is below in the bio. And here's a quick video tutorial showing you exactly what the Med Collective is. Thank you again so much for listening. Like I said, this is one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. And make sure to check out Belle Whiffen, the founder of the Med Collective. Thank you so much for listening.
Welcome to the Med Collective. Let's start by showing you around. We've arrived at your personal library, but first let's take a look at our guides. Here at the guides section, you'll find our amazing guides who have been carefully selected to provide you with a deep and powerful experience. You can select a guide and see their full guided meditations. You can read about them, follow them to receive notifications, or reach out via their details. Now, back at your personal library, I'll walk you through how to create your own meditation. Click the Create a New Med button. Click plus to add a track. Choose from various categories to find tracks to add to your playlist. Inside these categories, you'll find elements from each of our guides, so you can choose your favourite pieces to customise your experience. Each time you want to add a new piece, click the Add button. Then choose your category to find a new track. To sample the track, press the play icon to hear how it sounds. If you change your mind, you can go back any time to edit your meditation. Drag tracks to change the order, and always click Done when you're complete. When you're ready, you can play your meditation. Back at your library now, let's move across to the Our Meds tab. Here you'll find playlists we created for you, mixes we personally love. You can add any meditation to your favourites. You can share meditations with friends. You can download for offline use, and you can save any meditation to your library. Don't forget to check out the feed below, where new content is being added every week, along with events and products offered by your guides. If you ever need us, or if you'd like to share feedback, please go to your profile, then Get Help, where you can email us or reach us at livechat@themedcollective.com. Anton Wisbiski, I feel so blessed to interview you today. Thank you for deciding to come on and talk to me about your whole life.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. You're just such an amazing human being. You inspire me so much with your wisdom and all of the people that you've helped with the work that you do. Can you tell me, like, how on earth did you end up on this path, being a seeker or just being so inquisitive to go down the rabbit hole?
Mm, that's a loaded question, but to keep it simple, when I was 16, I watched a movie called The Secret, and I was only in, I think, ninth grade. And something in that movie just struck a chord with me. And I just felt in the deepest part of my being that everything that was coming through that TV was true. I had no doubts. My belief went through the roof. And that movie talked about the law of attraction. And I was just a naive 16-year-old kid. But honestly, in retrospect, that was such a massive like foundational pillar for my life today, because I learned at such a young age the power of positive thinking, the power of vibration, the power of energy. And it took me down a crazy road. And by the time I was 17 years old, I was riding in a $50,000 Mercedes Benz going to high school solely based off the information I learned from that movie. So again, I had multiple manifestations around along the way, but it just kept building and building and building. And you know, after that, it's just you realize you get to a point in yourself where you realize manifestation isn't all there is to life. And although I was manifesting and I was abundant, there was still some deep down unresolved like trauma within me that I had to work on. So that's when I went down the path of healing, which is a long story. But to make a long story short, I had really bad anxiety as a kid, and I I had severe panic attacks when I was 14 and 13. And when you're in that space, you feel very desperate. You feel like there's no way out. And I had both anxiety and depression. So I was on kind of like the high and the low end. And when you're low, you really sometimes can't see a way out. And when you're super high and you have that anxiety, it just feels like you're literally going to die. So you experience these extreme polarities. And I guess I should have started the story with that, because years later is when I found The Secret, and that gave me hope that there was something better. And I got part of a company that gave me a vision to be like, oh my gosh, like I can actually do something with my life. And I kind of got inspired at a very young age. But, to make a long story short, again, I realized when I watched The Secret, like my anxiety and things started to go away, but it came back later in my life. And it came back in different ways. I was kind of able to self-regulate the panic attacks just through my own process. But I realized like I always felt like something was wrong. Like I didn't have like my mind under control. So that took me through, going deeper into different knowledge, working with different spiritual teachers, and finding different modalities that could really help me actually heal on that fundamental level, so that I could really return to my wholeness that I knew kind of like intuitively was already inside of me. But I needed the right vehicle to get there, because there's a lot of BS. And I was someone who wanted to know the truth, and I knew it was possible to heal without medication. And I just continued looking until I stumbled upon breathwork, really, which is what turned everything around for me.
Wow. So you've kind of had two really pivotal, life changing things in that story. The two main things that I got from it was a really big healing journey where you've learned and experienced a lot to help yourself and others. And then also maybe a key to manifestation, or a cool way to manifest, which, let's face it, in this 3D world, when we can create our life and create the things that we want, it takes the edge off. But I love how you said you realized that there was more after that kind of, because you can manifest all the stuff that you want, but like the outside doesn't give you kind of wholeness from the inside. And it's interesting, that's where that healing piece comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and
at the earlier stage of my life, I was very money motivated. Everything I did was for money. And I guess I just, like you said, like I realized like what the hell is the point of all this money if I still don't feel comfortable in my own skin as a human? And I dealt with pretty severe anxiety until I was about like 22, which wasn't even that long ago. And I didn't even realize it was severe anxiety. Like I almost started to believe that was me. And I think a lot of people believe that, but there was this distinction I made when, I guess I just always wanted to like, when I was like manifesting and like experiencing the power of the law of attraction, like you said, there was some deeper level of unfulfillment. It's like, I thought when I was young, 6 figures was going to solve all my problems. Then I hit 6 figures and I realized that didn't solve any of my problems. So, then you start asking bigger questions like, why am I here? Why do I feel like this? How do I feel better? How do I just be happy, essentially? Because money can't buy you happiness. So I learned that at a decently young age. And then I just got dissatisfied with how I felt, and I wanted the truth. I wanted to heal. I wanted to feel good. Like life doesn't have to be dull. So yeah, it took me down an amazing path.
Wow. So you mentioned breath work before. Do you think that's been the main pivotal thing that's helped you heal to this larger degree?
Absolutely. I always tell people it was like the like, maybe this is a bad example, but like the last nail in the coffin of my old self. Because again, like I said, I had overcome the panic attacks. I had overcome the, like depression on a severe level, but it would still come in from time to time where I would get like really bad social anxiety, or I would just feel anxious about like client work, and I just never felt settled in myself, and I just was never like fully calm. It's like I was always on edge. And I kind of used that stress almost in a sense to like, I used it as a fuel source to grow different businesses I've been a part of in my life. And I didn't even fully realize how like much I was still in fight or flight until I did like a really deep breath workshop one time. And it was like, I had been meditating for years prior. I had been doing like a type of breath work, but I never did like a holotropic hour long in and out deep breathing, like this circular motion, and like just focusing on nothing but your breath for an hour straight. And I hadn't experienced that changed everything. And I just felt like there was something like energetically or spiritually trapped in my field or in my body that just completely released after that session. And I literally was never the same. And after that, it's almost like everything in my life started to fall apart. And the reason that took place is because I realized like relationships started to fall apart, my business, different like associations in my life, my health. And the reason it fell apart is because my entire life had been built on anxiety and like these kind of like energies that I thought again were me. And then the breath work like completely sedated me, not for a day, not for 2 days. This was like a permanent change in my body and brain. And just, I realized, wow, like my whole life is a lie. And it was like this like kind of like ego death. And like, I just went through like a really weird like couple months, and I realized that, I'm not what I thought I was. And that took me just down, again, like this road of healing and building upon that new foundation and saying, wow, like I always thought anxiety was something you had to cope with. I didn't fully realize it could be healed entirely. So, yeah, it changed me, that first breath workshop. Absolutely.
It's really interesting, isn't it? As we grow as a human, we develop all of these programs to kind of, and they're there to serve us in that time. And so that anxiety or that stress that was manifesting in you would have been serving you in some way. And for me, it was it was like an armor that I had, like a really thick armor that I built up over time. And it was a protection mechanism. And, you end up with this really strong third center and this drive, and whatever these weird programs that we create, they somehow drive us. But so then tell me, so you had this breakdown, this old part of you kind of fell apart, and then this new Anton, or this new version of Anton, emerged. How did you, I've been through a similar process, and I guess I struggled with, like, when all of those old programs move on that have been serving you your whole life, and that's the way you learned to do something. That's the way you learned to build a business, to be an entrepreneur, to get through your life. And then all of a sudden you come out on the other side and you're more heart-centered and lighter and free, and you feel amazing. And then you start creating from that new place, and then you kind of got to figure it all out again. How do I do this? And so how did you find, like, your new drive, where do you operate from now? And how do you create your business from this new place that you live from?
That's an amazing question. Well, again, I think it was very ego driven in the beginning. And to be honest, even to the point where, for me, there's layers of uncovering even in that new self, right? And I felt when initially it shifted, the first thing I wanted to be was, like, genuinely a part of something bigger. Like, I wanted to feel like I was contributing to the betterment of society. And I had already owned a social media business at that point. And I was already, helping different spiritual leaders grow their brands, but it was coming from such a different place inside of me. It was like the opportunity to make money was there, and that was, like, still the ego. But then when I had the shift internally, I was like, whoa, wait, no, like, pause. Wait, dude, look at the impact you're having. Look at the people you can reach. Look at what you can do, in later time with yourself, in serving, like, surrendering to a higher mission within you, and realizing if you come from a place in your heart, genuinely from a place in your heart, not intellectually, like, if you come from that deep part of your being, which I believe is your soul, everything you touch will turn to gold because your intentions are so pure. So for me, it was just, like, massive surrender to the old self. Just, like, this isn't me anymore. And of course, those programs can come back in, like, be like, oh, like, but you can make so much money if you do this, or if you do this. But then realizing, like, it's not about me. It's about serving the person in front of me. And I feel people in this spirituality space, they get those lines way too blurred, and they never make the distinction that this is not about me. It's about the person in front of me. And I had struggled with that, in all transparency, like, literally up until this year. But again, working through those layers of, like, okay, the anxiety's gone. Okay, but I still have an ego. I'm still a human. So overcoming that entirely, I feel like it's an ongoing process. Of course, you always have to keep your ego in check. But when you can just realize, like, you have to come from the deepest part of your soul in that contribution. And I think when you lead from that level of consciousness, you will just totally, like, fall into things that are way less of your old programs. Like, you won't have to force so much, or maybe, I don't know fully what it is, but you attract a different circumstance because we attract what we are, right? So that reflects in our business. That reflects in our relationship. Like, for so long, everything felt like an uphill battle for me. And then it was like, oh, like, wait, it doesn't have to be hard. Like, I can actually have fun with what I do. I can actually be creative and just come from this place of service. And, that kind of attitude has really, in mindset and soul set, really has carried over massively with, Irina and myself, with the breath work and what we do with people. Because at first it was like, in working with your partner, there was, like, this tension of, like you take the stage, I take the stage. And, like, it was so subconscious, mainly from my end, because that ego was still wanting to like lead with those old programs. And until I let that go completely, like it's a level of freedom within myself that I've never experienced. And the way I can show up for somebody else is so different than the old me, because it's not about me anymore. And I feel like so many teachers and spiritual leaders who get into this space, I don't know if they ever come to that distinction, a lot of them. And I think it's, if you're going to serve, it's a sacred space and you have to get there within yourself. That's a long answer to a short question, but
it's a great answer. I love hearing, there's so many insights. Each time you speak, there's about 10 questions that I want to ask you, and I just have to pick one. But
honestly, when I get rolling, I don't know how to stop.
Just go. Hey, it's all coming from the heart. So it's beautiful. That's the intention we set, right?
Yes.
You mentioned about kind of finding a level of freedom and surrendering. You said, I had to keep surrendering and surrendering. And was that overcoming yourself? Or what's surrendering? What if people are listening to you going, how do you do that, man? Like, how do I keep surrendering?
I think as a man, it's hard to let go of, and maybe that's totally limited thought, what I was about to say. But as humans, it's hard to let go of the control. And surrender for me is having more faith than fear. Knowing that it's all going to work out and it's going to be perfect, and I no longer have to force, because the soul doesn't force. Like, it just doesn't. It is just being. And in that beingness, its energy shows up in such a powerful way that, like an alchemist, it changes everything around it. It doesn't have to say or do anything. It has to be something, though. So I think faith over fear is like, that's just like, sounds so perfect in what I feel about what I'm trying to articulate.
Faith over fear. That's really powerful. And so how do we gain faith, or how do you know that you, like, what can you look for in your environment, or how do we gain faith to have, to allow ourselves to surrender?
It's another amazing question. I think faith is very individualistic based on what people believe. For me, faith is connection with God, knowing God has my back, or the universe, or infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. That's what faith is for me. And for me, it really took meeting somebody, which is my girlfriend, who has such a profound relationship with the universe and her creator, that it inspired me to like be like, what are you tapping into? Like, what is that level of trust? And it kind of rubbed off on me. And in my process, I learned that you have to nurture your relationship with the universe. Like you nurture your relationship with your partner, you have to nurture that relationship with God. And for me, that comes in prayer. That comes in connecting to that collective mind in meditation and breath work. But I think if you don't practice it, you'll never experience it. And something that came later was, asking the universe for confirmation. Like if you're in that heart-centered space and you feel like, whether it be through prayer or meditation, and you feel like you're really there and connecting with that intelligence, whatever it may be for you, ask it to show its presence to you in your day. Like, ask it to make itself known in a language you will understand. And after that happens hundreds of times, you can't doubt anymore. And you realize, holy shit, something really big has my back. And like, man, it's like, if you could package that and sell it to somebody, it's the greatest thing in the world. So, yeah, I think like developing your faith, you have to nurture that relationship, and again, keep choosing love over fear. And I think when we make time for the universe makes time for us. And that is manifested through grace, where things just can't be explained. It comes from something bigger. So Have a few of those and you'll just know. And nobody can shake that from you.
That's amazing. And I find the universe has such a funny sense of humor. Like when you ask for that feedback, like, show me, it does something really quirky or funny and totally cracks me up.
I couldn't agree more.
That's beautiful. So, to invest time and to turn up for God or the universe, or to build on your faith, you spend time in prayer and breath work and meditation. Is that am I following correctly?
Yeah, that would be it.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to do more of that then.
Yeah, like honestly, this understanding came from a really painful place, because my whole life I gave my power away to other people, other teachers, other authoritative figures. And I had to learn the lesson a million times before I figured it out, that we are our own gurus. Like, we are our own teachers. And there's also a greater teacher that supersedes human consciousness. And if we can go to that altar, so to speak, you don't need to ever look at another human. Like, you can look at yourself and that connection to source, because source has all the answers, all the wisdom. It's infinite intelligence. It's the all in all. So if you can go there, you don't need a person. And then like you stop trusting what people say from like a teacher standpoint, and you start trusting what you feel is true, because it's a different level of connection and it's authentic to every person. It's individualistic. So my truth might not be your truth, but you get there by making time for it. You get there by coming from such an innocent, genuine part of yourself, which is your soul. So it's a practice like anything. But again, the more you move towards grace, the more grace moves towards you, from my experience.
That's beautiful. And just in there, you said about giving your power away. So you said you kept giving your power away all your life and you had to learn the hard way, or you had to keep learning the lesson over and over again. How would people know that they're giving their power away?
Oof, that's a good question. Honestly, the easy answer is, if someone around you is making you feel fearful, that is a clear sign. But there's two sides of every coin, because if you're not developed enough with internally, you're going to feel as if they're making you fearful, but really it's something within you haven't like overcome or worked through. So a good sign for me is if I'm around people and they're making me feel empowered, I feel inspired, I don't feel drained after. I feel I'm able to be my full authentic self around the person in front of me. I think, those are some clear signs. But yeah, I think you have to take it all with a grain of salt. But essentially, you want to be around people who lift you up. And there's so many like negative spiritual teachers nowadays, and they put you in a place of fear. And that's because subconsciously, like, they're trying to control you in some shape or form. So you got to be very cautious of that, because I've dealt with that many times in my life. And, but it made me wise. Like it made me be able to point these people out in seconds. So if you want to take it from my experience, like, you can feel love and you can also feel fear. So you have to listen to that little voice, because it will speak to you. And so many people justify that voice based on other opinions. But that's when you start to own your own power and be like, no, this is what I feel, and I'm not disregarding this. And you remember it. And you make your decisions from there.
Right. So one example of being in fear might be, you're saying, like, ignoring that little voice inside you. Or what are the ways that fear might manifest
I mean, I think essentially it's in a feeling. If you feel internally like scared, or you're walking on eggshells, or you're just not able to be you, or you're scared to express your opinion, or you're scared to be wrong, like all those things that's fear talking. So yeah, I mean, it can manifest in many ways, but those are the few that come to my mind.
That's beautiful. I mean, I feel like that's a really nice, clear description. So if you're not being authentic, or coming from a place of authenticity, and you feel uplifted and empowered by the people around you, then you're in the opposite state, which is more the state of fear, not listening to yourself, not following your own heart, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And so so if you can observe that in yourself and go, oh, I'm in fear right now, all of a sudden we have these tools that we can use, as you described your healing journey. So if someone was feeling fear, or when you felt fear and you overcame yourself and went through your healing journey, what are some of the things that you turned to, or that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, one I'm constantly turning to, and till this day do it daily, is breath work, and which is why I teach it to people. And my breathwork style is a combination of multiple different teachings I've learned through the breathwork world. And for me, honestly, the most effective, easy, quick way to calm down, to overcome maybe that fear, is to just breathe really fast. If you have the app, I do these things called power breathing, and it's just essentially 10, 15, 20 really fast, deep breaths, as fast as you can almost, all through your mouth. And what this does is it kind of gets you out of that like thinking mind that's always trying to like control and overanalyze and this and that. And it can allow you to just like drop into yourself, and then like you feel the energy all around you. And what's happening is your nervous system is like tuning up. It's like readjusting, and you're just able to kind of like get grounded. So, I mean, you don't even have to necessarily go into a breathwork session to do that. But most people, they don't take deep breaths. So they're always like totally anxious like this and freaked out. But if you just breathe and relax and come back to center through speaking with another human, that will make you feel so much calmer. And it's really just a management of your nervous system. So if you want to have some fun with it, do some fast, deep breaths. But if you have 10 minutes or 15 minutes, do one of the guided breathwork tracks and really just breathe deeply in and out through your stomach for 15 minutes, all through the mouth, and you'll feel much different than you did before, 100% every time.
Wow. So we've got like a super quick fix band-aid, and one that if we have time to experience, when we make time to experience it, we can go and spend 15 minutes and experience that longer breath work experience. Yeah.
Yes.
And earlier you said actually an hour, like the time when you said you had that big flip, you said you did an hour long of breathing. Did that take a lot to overcome yourself, or did you think that you could even make an hour breathing? How did that work out?
I think it sounded, I'm trying to think of the state I was in back then, but I'm sure if I had to guess, it probably sounded extremely intimidating. I mean, even meditating for an hour sounds extremely intimidating. Like, oh my God, I got to sit with my own mind for an hour. Like, most people, that freaks them out, especially if you have some type of like anxiety or something like that. Or even if you don't, like just sitting with your own thoughts, that can sound like a lot. So the cool thing about the breath work is that it puts you into an altered state of consciousness. And after 7 minutes of doing the breathing that I teach, that a lot of different breathwork coaches teach, is that you are literally, your brain activity is shifting. So you're not in your thinking brain anymore. So people can't even really comprehend this because they've never not been in their thinking brain unless they're sleeping. So when you do the breath work after 7-8 minutes, all the activity shifts to the back, your limbic brain, your amygdala, where fear is stored, and you're out of that ego, you're out of that thinking mind, and you're really into your body and you're into your nervous systems in the deepest primitive part of yourself. So when you're there, you have no recollection of time. Time doesn't exist there. And I remember when I did my first breathwork session, and a lot of times when we do breathwork sessions with people, they're like, that was an hour? Like, I thought that was 15, 20 minutes. So you enter into that space. So I'm sure back then I felt intimidated, but after you're in it for like 10 minutes, smooth sailing. The first 5 minutes is always the hardest.
Actually, I tried one of your, I think it was 12-minute breathwork meditations or breathwork sessions, and I was sitting up in a chair and I got really dizzy and thought I was like going to fall out of the chair. And I love that you clarified for me, like if you're going to do a longer breathwork session, you really should lie down.
Yeah, even the 10-minute ones, I would recommend lying down.
So when you say the breath work drops you out of your thinking brain, to me, I go straight to meditation and I think, wow, that's really powerful, because sometimes when I sit down to meditate, there's a lot going on in my life, or there's a lot of things going on, and I have a lot of thoughts going on in my head, as I'm sure lots of people do. And that sounds like just such a powerful tool to be able to go boof and just shut down my brain and then be able to go into the meditation and have a really beautiful, deep meditation.
Yeah. I mean, I meditate as well, and I don't just do breath work or just meditation. I usually do both in the same session. But I will tell you this. I never, ever, 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 ever start a meditation before breath work. I always do breath work first. And the reason that is because it just gets you there way quicker. Like, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes trying to get to the space I know I can get to in 3 if I just do some really powerful breathing. So I like to do that because I'm a super busy person. So I'm constantly doing meetings and running a business and breath work and this and that and this and that. So spending an hour in the morning, I just don't have that always. So being able to get to that deep kind of like out of that thinking brain into the body, into the heart within like 5 minutes through breathing and then unfolding in a meditation, it's such a hack. It's such a hack. So, I mean, I recommend everybody try that. Just do some deep breathing for 5 minutes and then start your meditation and see how much deeper and how much quicker you'll go. And that's why people who've never done breathwork before, never done meditation or breathwork, or they're intimidated by meditation, their experiences with breathwork are so freaking profound, because they're not trying to change by changing their like mind with their mind. They're using their body as a tool to move deeper into deeper parts of themselves with the breath work. In meditation, it's like you got to think about what you're thinking about. And it's like so complex, but it's not so complex, but it's from my experience, I have found breath work just can get you there really quick. And then you can just enhance the meditation with how much deeper you can go. So it's like you're just injecting it with steroids, essentially. Healthy steroids.
That sounds awesome. And that's why we made the Med Collective app with the create your own meditation process, so people can say, because it's really different for everyone. And like you say, Anton, you never start a meditation without a breathwork session first. And, another one of the founders of the Med Collective, he actually loves to do his energy centers and then include breath work in between each energy center, or like
That's awesome.
Do the breath work, go out into space, and then just totally shock himself by adding some intense breath work after he's been out in space, and then smash himself again with some more breath work. And I can only imagine what seriously altered state of consciousness you could put yourself into if you wanted to like trial and experiment with mixing breath work with different styles of meditation.
Totally. And, I do both too. Like I'll do 5 minutes of breath work, and then maybe I'll do 20 minutes of meditation. If I'm not quite where I want to be, I'll do breath work again, and I play with it too. So I recommend all of that and experimenting for yourself. And then obviously when you get into just straight breath work for like 45 minutes or an hour, it can be tough to get there if you're doing it just by yourself. So, I always recommend to, train with a facilitator if you're going to go for those longer journeys, because sometimes we need help processing what comes up, or we just need some assistance because your body can do all types of crazy stuff because there's so many things happening from a chemical level.
So is that something you facilitate, Anton?
Yes, totally. So my girlfriend and I, we do breathwork sessions with people, and that includes like coaching. But every single person is going through something a little bit different. If you've had a lot of trauma in your life, and you've had a lot of trauma in your life, I wouldn't go into an hour-long breathwork session alone. It's just too much. And you need somebody there to guide you through the experience, who can see you, what's happening. It's so important because, again, sometimes trauma is energy stored in our body. And sometimes when that energy is trying to release, your body can go crazy. I mean, it can look really bizarre. So I always recommend, most people know where they're at, but 10 minute, 15, 20, even 30, that's fine. When you start going over that, it's a little bit more advanced. So I'd recommend to, contact us for a session or another breathwork facilitator, because we love to do it with people. We take them deep, and we always kind of see where they're at and then push them a little beyond their boundaries. And then afterwards, we speak with them and, use our own intuitions and different things to help them make the change forever. Because breath work, it's going to bring up a lot of stuff within you that, I always say it's like a roller coaster. It's like you go, like for me, my first experience, to give you some context, and it's different for everybody, but my first experience of a deep breathwork session, I relived all the times somebody hurt me really deeply. Like I relived it, and I felt that fear, like immense amounts of fear and pain and sadness. And there's like a moment in that breathwork session where I can think, oh my God, no, I'm scared, it's gotta stop. Because it's just breathing. You can stop at any moment. But, because I was in a setting where it allowed me to go further and I felt safe and I had a guide, I worked through that. And there was just, it was the fear, and then it was just like the immense freedom of realizing, oh my gosh, this no longer controls me. I'm empowered. I'm amazing. I feel so good. And then it was like that really high of like, wow, life is mine for the taking. I can do whatever I want. Everything's just an illusion. All this fear, it's not real. Like, let's lead with love. So, it's a journey, and, you got to gauge where you're at. But I always recommend, both doing it as a practice daily, a little bit shorter. And if you want to go deeper, work with a facilitator for sure.
Cool. So people can check you out on the app. They can use the app a little bit. They can come to you for a workshop or a guidance to do a longer experience, and use the app in between to get your shorter stuff. Or once they've done an hour with you, then they can do an hour using the app or their own way.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. And so that sounds like a pretty epic moment of surrender that you just described, when you peaked at that fear and you wanted to give up in that moment. And then on the other side of that was freedom.
Oh, man. Yeah, that experience, like, that was the experience that changed me forever. I let go of who I thought I was. Because again, like I said, I thought I was my anxiety, and that came with a lot of fear. Anxiety is fear of the future. And I guess it was like, you're in such a different place than like your conscious mind. You're in like this deep, it almost felt like my soul was replaying my life to me. And it was saying, hey dude, this is everything you went through, but I'm here to show you this isn't who you are, but you have to remember that. So I'm going to give you everything you need right now, and you have to make the choice to choose freedom or fear. Choice is yours. And it was just like this roller coaster that was taking me clearly to freedom. And it's almost like, because the healing was taking place, I didn't have a choice. But it was more of just, yeah, it was surrender fully and really just unraveling who I thought I had become. And like, yeah, letting go of that and choosing faith. And what happened was I saw like all this energy at the base of my spine, like this ball of, it was like a ball of golden light, and it just shot up to my head, and all my chakras aligned, and I was free.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. Changed my
What
whole
a
life.
beautiful experience. Amazing. Yeah, I think I've had some experiences in meditation where I've just felt fear, like I've come up against something that I don't understand, or it looks weird, and I just feel my whole body tense up, and then I'm like scared in that moment. But then if I can find the courage to trust and just let go and just trust in that moment and let go, on the other side of it is always this really profound, blissful experience that just, I think, lifts you to a new level of consciousness, a new level of awareness. And then when you come out of it, you feel different, like you're not the same anymore.
Yeah. It's it's really incredible. And I think like those fears are like that we come up against within ourselves, and even in everyday life. We don't have to be meditating to come up against our fears. Like so many people are, you know, scared of the virus, scared of this, scared of that. And the fear is just a symbol for something deeper inside of themselves. And when we go to places like meditation, we experience fear, but it's already happening subconsciously. The meditation is just bringing it to the conscious mind. So it's not so much overcoming the fear, but just like the energy associated with what that is. And like you said, when you do that, and it's for me, it's really like a vulnerability. It's being so fucking honest with where you're at in yourself. We're like, holy shit, like I'm still dealing with this thing I went through when I was 7. Like seriously, I still fear this. I'm still scared of people abandoning me because this happened with my dad when I was 16. Like really, but yes, that can be a thing, and you move through that energy because you're honest with yourself. You see, wow, that's still there. And that is for me, that moment when you just accept that, it allows you to move through it so freely, because we neglect and we hide from those deeper emotions because we're scared to feel them. But that's the key to our freedom. So you can get there in meditation. You can get there by being vulnerable with your partner and just telling them what you're genuinely been holding on to your heart for years. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but there has to be a point where you become so honest with yourself and you're willing to see you for who you are, good and bad. That right there makes you free. And the byproduct of having that level of like sincerity with yourself is, like you explained, like that freedom of bliss, ecstasy, because that is our true nature. It's the fear, the programs, all the shit stacked up that we think we are, but that's not us. We got to work through those layers, and it takes that vulnerability, and boom, right at the end of that is our freedom.
So I just want to contribute to what you're saying there about the fear and the programs. And I think, as human beings, we're doing whatever we can to evolve and get through this life. And the more awareness we have, the more we can see where we're at, and we become reflective, and we can continually step forward and operate at new levels. But I think it can be so hard to let go of fear, for example, because if we've been running this certain program that's actually been serving us for a period, the fear in letting go of what's actually been protecting us for so long, I think that's the thing that makes us want to hold on to it. So I love that vulnerable, like getting vulnerable thing, because it takes so much courage to do that.
So much.
And you got to be willing to step into that, like that new person, and go, okay, I'm going to trust. It's like jumping off a cliff.
It absolutely is. And the thing with courage is that courageous people have fear. They just continue despite the fear. And something I always say to people is like your fear is subconsciously running your life, and it brings pain upon yourself slowly, but it stacks through years and years and years and years. So if you understand that, you have to like own that as a human being and be like, you know what? I'm just going to run towards this fear. I'm just going to do the shit that scares me the most. And whether it's being vulnerable with yourself or it's like a literal fear you have to overcome in your physical reality, but it's already controlling you. It's already influencing every decision you make. And like you said, fear is a protection mechanism, and anxiety, all this stuff. It's all a protection mechanism that our body creates to keep us surviving. That's what the survival instincts are. But to evolve to our truest nature of love, of, you know, a higher self, whatever you want to call it, you have to put those down, because it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anybody around you. And this doesn't happen in 5 minutes. You know, this is an ongoing unfolding of you. But if you hear this now, you now are informed. So I feel it's our duty to overcome that, because we will show up so differently for everybody in our lives. People will be like, what are you on, dude? Just be like, nothing, I'm just on life. But they'll notice something different in you because you've changed energetically. You've changed from a literal DNA level. So it's super powerful.
I love that what you're touching on there. So you've changed energetically. So we are energy, we're energetic beings. So when you change energetically, what do you think happens to the environment around you and the people around you?
Well, there's, I guess, two sides of the coin. I really feel as we change, we perceive things differently. We start looking through different lenses. And it's not so much that our environment has changed, but it's that we're viewing it from a new level of ourselves. And if fear's here and love's here and you're down here, everything's going to reflect to you fear. You're always going to think someone's trying to attack you. You're always going to think someone's trying to out to get you. You always think you're going to not succeed in business. You always think you're going to be unhealthy. You always think life's going to be hard, et cetera, et cetera. That's the level of consciousness your like energy is at. When you upgrade or level up or whatever you want to call it, you shift. Your body shifts, your mind shifts, your literal DNA changes. And it's not that things have changed around you. It's that you've changed from your fundamental self. And you're now able to see things totally different than you could before. And you actually realize, like, the people you didn't like, you're like, wow, like, they're just in pain. Not that they're a bad person. And that's because you changed. They're not changing. You're changing. You know, some people obviously change, but it can manifest even in health. Like, you may not change your food, but you're healing. So I think, you know, we see things as we are, not as they are, as I forget the lady who has that quote, but it's so true.
Mm. Do you think that when we come from a state of love, or when we're at that higher frequency, that we can affect other people around us with our field?
100%. I think if you're completely in like presence of that beingness and you're letting your soul emanate just through the look in your eyes, you can absolutely affect somebody. And maybe you don't have to look in your eyes. You can just affect their energy field, because we are energy, and like I believe in like aura, and you know, we have this field around our body, and we can expand that to our brothers and sisters and be a light, so to speak. And you know, everyone's a candle, Some people just, they need to be reminded, they need a little help. So I think our true essence as humans is super good, pure love. Just again, the programs have made us believe otherwise.
These programs get us in a pickle.
They do, man. That's the matrix right there.
Oh.
Because we think they're real.
Okay, Anton, before we wind up, there's actually 2 more directions I want to ask you about, if it's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think there's people listening in our audience that love the supernatural nature of things, and also some practical tools around manifesting. In fact, maybe we can start there. You mentioned when you were 16 or 17, you were able to drive a Mercedes Benz, and like, do you have a process for manifesting, or how did you become like a really competent, conscious creator?
Oh man, well, it's so different now than it was back then, because now, I guess I'll speak from now and then. Now I realize I'm not separate from anything. Like I realize that I guess I am one with everything around me, from people to things, and everything is a level of energy. So if we can tap into the frequency of the thing it is we're trying to create, we'll bring it to us at lightning speed. But with the energetic like changes within yourself through breath work and meditation, when you can feel in your meditation as if you're in the process of living out whatever your manifestation may be. Something I tune into a lot is like doing future events when the world opens up with Irina, my girlfriend, and guiding breathwork sessions. But I don't see it as something distant. I put myself there now as if I'm living it now through these eyes, and I feel what it is it's going to feel like. And I just put that out into the universe, and I feel so grateful for it to be done. And what I usually do is what I tune into is the celebration of the success of the event we had. And that for me just like lights me up because it's so real. And I know that's already happened. It's just not yet here, but it's already done, because my certainty and knowingness in my ability that I am a creator can't be shaken. I know it for absolute fact. Back then, when I was younger, it was more of a obsession. It came from more of like a kind of like a third center will place of like, it's gotta be this, it's gonna be this. And I thought about it nonstop, 24/7. I still obsess about certain things, but back then it didn't come from the best place inside of me. So, Earl Nightingale, we become what we think about. That is absolute truth. I think the best way to manifest is, instead of focusing on objects, things, and money, tune in and become the future you in the present moment. So if you want to impact people, that means you have to be a pretty epic human being. That means you have to have your ego in check. That means you always have to lead from a place of love. That means fear is not even in your awareness, because you're freedom. You're that radiant being. So a process now that I actually enjoy more is just becoming my future self in the present moment. It makes way more sense. And when you do that, you actually give the universe more flexibility to present to you who you're being. And that can show up as manifestation, but it's really just showing up as you experience the universe through you. That's what it is. So, my process has changed over the years as I evolved. But if you're like an entrepreneur and you're listening and you want to build that $1 billion company, or that huge business, or this or that, or you want a specific car, you can do all that. And that's great. I think learning you're a creator is like a pillar in the spiritual journey. That is so foundational, and you have to go through that, in my opinion. So pick something and try it out. But in the beginning, if you don't believe it's possible, It's not going to happen. You have to know it's possible, and you can use the tools like breathwork and meditation to almost trick yourself in a sense to believing something that seems so far out. But the key is that you have to feel as if it's already done. So you can have the car, you can have the business, you can have the $1 million. That's all great. But I believe once you arrive there, you'll realize there's something more. And that something more is kind of the process I'm still not after, but always looking forward to.
That's so cool. I actually taught my kids how to manifest when they were little.
Really?
Like they'd lose a toy or something like that. Yeah. So to help them gain belief in the process, I taught them how to manifest little things, like something that was missing. And because they knew what it was that was missing, and they'd just been playing with it or something. So they knew how it felt. They knew how to get present with it. So I'd get them and have them hold out their little hands and imagine that, close their eyes, and they can feel the piece or the puzzle piece or whatever it is, the car in their hands, and feel it, and then feel the feeling that they found it. And wow, I found it. I'm so relieved. And like that feeling, that's the icing on top, right? When we radiate that feeling that it's already happened, that I already have it. And then when they find the piece and it just turns up out of nowhere, a place they've already looked, and they get surprised, and then they get kind of confirmation that process works. And there's nothing like that to like strengthen those foundations in your brain to go. So I think starting with small things, if someone is out on a manifesting journey to learn and to test it out, to start with something that they can believe that they're capable of, and then kind of move to bigger things after that. If the certainty is so important that we need that certainty that we can create that, we are worthy of that. Yeah, I think that's a good path to follow. But I love you just said about becoming your future self and tuning into who you are as your future self and walking as that. I love when you tune into your future self, I love that you start to notice the things that are happening around you. So if you want to create a certain opportunity, the universe is going to start putting those breadcrumbs that you speak about, putting those breadcrumbs in front of you. And if you haven't tuned into that future version of you, and you don't know that feeling or that energy, you're not going to notice those opportunities and those breadcrumbs. It'll just pass you right by, because you won't be a vibrational match to that thing that you're creating or tuning into.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that you touched on that.
Yeah. Everything's energy. It's like a literal example is like, why do some people think we live in hell and other people like earth is heaven? Like the situations aren't different. It's them. It's their perception. It's like some people look out the window and they see a beautiful rainbow. Other people look out the window and they see the specks on the window from the rain. Like, it's like, it's all a matter of them. So yeah, I do want to touch on one thing you said about with your kids and getting them like that excitement. Something I always used was tune into the part of you when you were young, when it was Christmas Eve and you knew tomorrow morning there is presents under that tree. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. You are getting those presents. If you can get to that place inside of you with something you're trying to create, it is coming in at lightning speed. And all you got to do is keep feeding that feeling. Feel it while you're at work. Feel it while you're making dinner. Feel it throughout your day. Just take 5 minutes and just check in. Maybe set a reminder on your phone. Like, remember, Christmas is tomorrow. I used to do this. And it just brings it in so fast because you're focusing on it, one. But number two, you're living from that excited, elevated state. It's life is a game of energy. I mean, life is energy. So if we can work up the scale, so to speak, to move from fear to freedom and excitement and bliss and wonder and awe and grace and, unconditional love, moving up that scale vibrationally, you're going to bring things in so fast. And a lot of people they don't fully understand this, but that's kind of like my whole process is if I'm having a bad day, quote unquote, I know it's something within me. there's something happening. Because when I'm on that super high frequency, things don't affect me. Like, things could really be going wrong. Like, but I'm all good because, again, it's just a different energy. You perceive it through a different lens.
So how do you change your energy? If you're having a crappy day, how do you change your energy?
Oh man, I think in to today, if it's a really bad day, like, I don't know, something horrible happens, my first thing I always try to do is not react, because I know if I react, I'm instantly going down on the spiral. I'm instantly going to move from, like, you know, anger is a little bit better than fear. Fear is a little bit better than depression. Depression is a little bit better than, like, suicidal, you know? Like, it's a scale of energy. So if you can get from, like, depressed to angry, that's good. You're on your way up. So the moment I react, I know it's a downhill spiral. So I think what I do now is, like, if something triggered me, I go on a walk. I put my phone down. I don't bring it. I go on a walk and I breathe and I do my very best to become present. I love birds. I look at the birds, I look at the doves, and I just breathe and I walk, and I realize, like, all I know is that whatever's happening right now is happening for me, because I have that level of faith. I know everything happens for me. It doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. So if my limited human consciousness can't comprehend that this is actually a good thing disguised as a bad thing, I just tell myself that mantra. And I say, life is always happening for me, not to me. I'm a creator of my life. I created this. And I constantly tell myself that while I'm breathing, and it helps me become in the present moment. Of course, I'm not perfect. I still react. I still have, bad days, but I don't have bad weeks anymore. I don't have bad months. I pull myself out of that. And that's because I've built that toolbox within me to always go to something. If the walk doesn't work, I'll sit down, I'll do 20 minutes of breath work if I have to. I will take the time to make sure my energy's changed before I, try to keep approaching the day. It won't make sense for my level of understanding right now. And again, that may sound a little far for people. So I think the biggest thing we have to do is take control of our emotions. Don't let our emotions control us. So we have to have a toolbox we go to, and it's different for everybody. But something I want to hit on is I have a ritual. I train myself as if, like, I don't even know how to look at it. It's so a part of my foundation of who I am to wake up, to meditate, do breath work, read, not go on technology, take a cold shower, take an ice bath, work out, go in the sauna. These are things I do on a daily basis. At first, I didn't want to, but I didn't have a choice because I didn't feel good naturally. My default was anxiety. So I had to find things that were going to help me get better. So I think every single human needs to have rituals and a routine and have some disciplines, even though I know it's a negative word for a lot of people. But that is what creates the muscle. So, like, the muscle for your mind, the muscle for your soul, to where, like, these little things, they don't bother you anymore. Like, it's just, it's like anything. You got to train yourself to be prepared for life's ever coming curveballs that are going to be thrown at you, because it's never going to stop. Life is life. It's always moving forward. So we have to come prepared. And for me, I come prepared by setting myself up every day. I wake up before 6 a.m. every day. And that's just an agreement with myself I have. And that sets me up for the day.
What a great thing to do. I love what you said there, Anton, about with changing your energy. It's just a simple thing. When you said, I leave my phone. And I know a lot of us are just so connected to our phones these days because it's our connection to the outside world, especially when if we're isolated, if we're in lockdown, where people are using their phones to connect to the entire outside world. And I know it can really get a grip on you. And it also feeds our ego and feels our importance, because if someone's sending us a message or something we need to know, it's like, oh, I'm important. I can't go for a walk without my phone because I'm important. And I need to be reminded that I'm important by everyone pinging me every minute to feed my ego or whatever it is. And I do think ego serves us as well. So, we're humans and everything has a benefit. But I love how you said, I leave my phone, because it's so tempting. Our phones do everything these days, and we can run our entire business on a phone. And so I love that you just make that conscious choice to leave it. Then when you go outside, you don't need to get reconnected to anything except you're in nature. You're with the birds, you're in the fresh air. You can open your focus. You're not like drilling your focus inwards. You're going out. So you're creating space to be able to deal with stuff, and space for your, I think, perspective to open up on the situation that triggered you in the first place. When you go outside, you can open up to all the possibilities of, why is this a gift? Why has this triggered me? Or just totally forget about it and watch the doves eating something.
I love birds. Yeah, it's so true. And I think there's so much noise in our society today. So many people telling you what you're doing is wrong, you're not good enough, what beauty is, like as if beauty is fake boobs and fake butts. Like that's not what beauty is. And social media and media drills that into men and women, and that's just not the truth. That's not who we are. That's not what we are. And the more we're locked into these devices, the more I really feel it like interrupts like our energy, really. And for me, I never knew I'm so sensitive to technology. I'm so sensitive. And if I put it away and just go outside and stand in my yard, even put my feet in the grass, I feel different within literally 2 minutes, because there's something, there's so many frequencies happening that we can't see, and that affects our DNA, that affects our energy. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Like think about Wi-Fi, and your phone, Bluetooth, that's going to your head. That's your brain's right there. I mean, there's so many things bombarding us 24/7. And then you put, like you said, social media in the mix. Man, it's not a good recipe. And of course you're not going to feel good. And especially young people, man. Like, I mean, I'm pretty young, but I look at like my brother's age, like, 20, 19, 18, social media and like this constant projection is in their face of saying, look how happy I am. Look how good I look. Look at me. And then like somebody, they're going to go look at themselves and be like, oh man, that person's life's so awesome. Mine sucks. But, comparison is the thief of joy, and social media is just simply a highlight reel. So I think, leaving the phone, and I recently started doing no phone in the morning. So I shut my phone off at night, and I use actually like an old alarm clock to wake up. It's really loud and annoying, but it gets me out of bed. And it allows me to not touch my phone for the first, 20, 30 minutes, because at 5:30 in the morning, there's nothing really too important I need to see on my phone. So that's been a huge game changer too.
That's awesome discipline. Especially nowadays when we're operating across time zones. Like for me, I'm down here in Australia. And so like I open my eyes in the morning and there's like all these messages from the States and stuff going on. And I'm like into it, like lying in my bed, solving stuff or like responding to stuff. And then I go and meditate after that, after I've dealt with a bunch of things.
Yeah. So you've already put so much BS in your head.
Yeah, I really love that idea of, I don't really like the noisy alarm thing, but I'm sure it's doable, or there's ways around it. But I love the idea of shutting off your phone and turning it on when you're ready to start. The world's not going to end.
Such a game changer. No, it's not. And if there's things that like, if you wake up at like 7 and you have priorities at 7:30, most people know when their priorities start. Wake up at 6:30. Give yourself that 30 minutes. It will change your entire day. I actually read a book that inspired this called The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, one of my favorite books. It's a story. It's just so well done. I don't want to give it away, but it's essentially about these people that learn the secrets to waking up at 5 a.m. and what the power of crafting a morning routine to get your, I think he says, soul set, heart set, and mindset right, for the day. And he are actually something physical in there too, but he just breaks it down like 20-minute intervals if you wake up at 5, and he has like this whole process. And I took it and made it my own, but completely game changer, like so game changer. Recommend everybody do it.
Great information.
Yeah.
Cool. Before we tie it up, I want to ask you about altered states of consciousness,
Yeah, let's do it.
just for something really fun. So from what I'm understanding about your breath work, we can actually create an altered state of consciousness.
Totally. Yeah, that's what they literally call it in like breathwork lingo.
Right. So can you give us an example of perhaps an abstract example of what that looks like, or maybe an experience that you've had that you just thought was really out of this world?
Man, I'm actually hesitant to share some because they're so out of this world. People might think I'm weird. Uh
Well, we can the people that think you're weird can either turn this off, or they can continue watching like a really authentic share that if they can't get over the fact that this is a place that you can go if you want to, it's available to you.
okay. I've never shared this
Yeah,
before.
and I'm into it. I want to go there, so I'm all about it.
Okay, so one time I was doing some really intense breath work. It was like uh a long one, hour and a half, 2 hours, intense. Pausing sometimes, but like a lot of fast breathing, power breathing. And I had this experience where all of a sudden, like, I was just in a different place, like just as real as this world, like as if you close your eyes and you opened and you were somewhere else. That's essentially what it felt like. It's like at one point I knew I was meditating. At another point, I was completely somewhere else, and I saw this silhouette of white light, and like he put his finger out, and just somehow I knew if I touch him, something's going to happen. So I was just like, well, faith or fear? Faith. So yeah, and then I just started like communicating with something, and he just said like, whatever questions you have, I have answers. And then it went on for about a good hour of just Q&A.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you came out of that?
Oh my gosh. I was high for like 4 or 5 days after that. Like I just felt like I was like, my energy was so high. Like people thought I was on drugs. I was just like so high. I don't know how to explain it. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was had a lot of information to share.
I believe there are quantum leaps in awareness. And so when you have a really profound experience like that, and you spend a lot of time investing in meditation, or obviously in breath work, and you allow yourself the time to go there, you can get a real quantum leap. And however it looks like, there's no rule book to say, this is what a quantum leap in awareness looks like. A guy's going to hold his finger out and touch your finger. Like it's different for every person and every experience. And I've learned that you can't even recreate the experiences.
No.
You can tune back into that state that you reached. You can go back to that moment, I believe. But you can't kind of recreate the experience.
No chance.
But when you say I was high for 5 days, like if someone opened the curtains and let all of this flood of light in, and your awareness just expanded like in a big leap all at once, you would have felt high as a kite. You're a different, new, more aware, more awakened human after that.
Totally. You're never quite the same. And, it's a really abstract idea of what I just shared, but it's unique to me, and that was just my own personal experience. Was it real? I don't know. Did it feel real? Yes. It felt extremely real. So, was I just in an altered state, or is there more to this world that we don't know about? I'm constantly wondering, and I think, like you said, when your consciousness expands, like it can't really retract. Like it just can't. And I really believe that's what the spiritual journey is. It's like you're unfolding deeper into actually what you already are. So it's a really weird like understanding. It's like we are the universe experiencing itself. So when you have that understanding, it's less about like becoming, which is what I thought it was all about, and it's more about actually just unfolding. It's more about experiencing more of your true nature. And that's wholeness, that's love, that's grace, that's gratitude, like those higher states. That's us. That's our real us. And that's why I'm so big on the disciplines, to make sure my human self doesn't forget that. And I need to have those as a structure in this human programmed body to remind myself daily of what I truly am. And so I can make sure it's like almost like a muscle. I can always get there if I need to. And why wouldn't you want to be there? I mean, why wouldn't you want to feel expanded? Why wouldn't you want to be in love? Why wouldn't you want to be happy? Like that's all available for everybody. But, it does take some work to get there. And I'm not afraid of that hard work, because the rewards are amazing.
Such awesome advice. Such an awesome conversation with you, Anton. Thank you for sharing so many golden nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Can you tell us how people find you? Tell us, where can people come to find more of you, to follow you, to reach you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can just find me, Anton Wisbiski, on Instagram. And website is currently under construction. So Anton Wisbiski on Instagram is the best place to be. DM me and we'll get it popping.
And the Med Collective app, we can find you there.
Yes.
Your breath work.
Yes, you can find me as a guide on the Med Collective app. You can customize if you only want breath work in certain parts of your meditation, and you like myself, and then maybe you like Brian or Sarah or Emma. You can customize everybody and just make a cool track for yourself. And that's the cool thing about the app, is that it's customizable to you. Like, not everyone's going to like 20 minutes of breath work. Maybe you only want 5. So play with it, see what works for you. And last thing is, ever expand beyond it, because there's always more, right? Like there's always a greater level of that place you can go within yourself to experience more of, like I said, our true nature. So the app is epic. It's something I use daily. Specifically, maybe I'm biased, but I do like my 13-minute tune-up. Let Love Breathe. That's like a really good one for 13 minutes. And yeah, there's some really good ones on there. So check it out.